Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number 148 of Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Steve Malone. We are coming to you once again from the international headquarters of GSM Services right here in downtown Gastonia. We simply believe in discussing more of the reasons why Gaston's great. We're highlighting we normally say another great organization. I guess that probably qualifies, but we are highlighting the Town of Dallas Stormwater Department. So some of you regular listeners might be going, what in the world, or why are you talking to the Stormwater Department? Well, we'll get to that. We have Garrison Batchelor with us today. Garrison is the Stormwater Administrator for the Town of Dallas. So, Garrison, it's great to have you on, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So, the first thing we make our guests do is just tell us a little bit about yourself, anything you'd like to share before we kind of get into the specifics of the work you were doing here locally.
Well, like you said, I am the Stormwater Administrator for the Town of Dallas. I've been there. Last week was my 1-year anniversary of working there. So,
very good.
Been, had a year to kind of understand how things are working, learning every day type stuff. I am from Charlotte originally, or I guess other side of Charlotte near Monroe.
We won't hold that against you.
Yeah, I kind of live down near Lake Wiley, basically in South Carolina now.
Okay.
I live with my fiance. We have 2 cats as well. I graduated from UNC Charlotte with a degree in environmental science and a minor in geology. And before I worked as stormwater administrator, I taught high school environmental science for a year.
Wow.
And had an internship in college with Charlotte-Mecklenburg Stormwater Services, which is kind of the whole reason I have this job now.
Yeah. So what brought you to Dallas? I mean, how did that occur?
So I was about to enter my second semester of teaching, and I don't have any formal teaching background, like in college and stuff. So I was, kind of learning on the fly. My fiance and I were talking about getting engaged, talking about wanting to have a house, all of these things, and we just kind of figured out it was probably better to not be a teacher at the time for multiple reasons.
Understood.
So I was looking at jobs. And I accidentally applied for the stormwater administrator position in Dallas because I kind of looked at it and I was like, there's no way I'm qualified to do that.
Did you know it was Dallas, North Carolina, I'm assuming?
I did.
Not Dallas,
I
Texas?
did. Now,
okay.
Before that night, I had never heard of Dallas, North Carolina. I knew there was a Denver, North Carolina. Okay. Yeah. But the farthest in Gaston County I'd really gone was McAdenville, other than to like drive through it, and Crowder's Mountain. Okay. But so I've kind of gotten to know the area a lot more in the past year. But yeah, I meant to save the job application to I'll look at it later, accidentally hit submit. My boss called me the next day while I was on lunch at school, and they said, hey, would you like to come in for an interview next week? And I did, and that's basically it. That's kind of what happened.
And here we are now, and here we are. It's culminated in this tremendous opportunity on the Gaston's Great podcast. Yep. So, bet you didn't expect that a year ago, huh?
Look, this is as close to movie star status as anybody in the stormwater business I think will ever get. So,
well, we'll see what we can do about that. We're gonna make the stormwater. How can I put that? The stormwater world famous here in Gaston County. Yeah. Okay, so. Before we get into the specifics of Dallas, I think we talked before we started recording, a little bit about, what is stormwater? What, some of our listeners are going to be like, what in the world is it? It rains, and when they think stormwater, what they think is, okay, it's water from a storm, right? Where does that water go? What does it do? So I'm sure there's more to it than that. I mean, so just give us a little background there, and then we'll get into, the initiatives and programs and things you're involved with in Dallas.
I mean, you summed it up pretty much right there. It is, stormwater, everybody is like, is it just water that comes from a storm? I mean, it is. Like, it is rainwater that hits the ground. It can either hit, dry ground or bare ground that has like grass or vegetation on it. That's something we call a pervious surface. Sure. Or it can hit a rooftop, a driveway. If it's packed down dirt, if it's already saturated ground, water can't soak into it. That's impervious. If it hits impervious, it's got to go somewhere.
Where does it go? Yep.
And it's going to run downhill. And, stormwater is really, or stormwater management is really making sure that you kind of control
where
it goes,
where the downhill's going.
Yeah, it's really more so controlling, making sure that it doesn't go certain places.
Fair enough. Yep.
Like we don't want property flooding. We don't want roads flooding. So if we can control that water and make sure that it is collected somewhere where it can build up and it's not going to hurt anybody, then that's kind of what we do. That's really it. But stormwater is a very simple topic, but I think people don't really, not that they don't understand it, they just don't think about it. I mean, the only time any normal person should be thinking about stormwater is if it's raining and if one of our systems isn't working, because then you
hear about it, right?
Yeah. Then we hear a lot about it. But yeah, it's a really simple topic, and it's really it's not really that.
It's kind of one of those things as a I guess it's in your work and as a citizens of say Dallas or wherever, because every municipality I'm assuming deals with this obviously. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you want to be behind the scenes, kind of like in sports. The referee don't want to become part of the game, right? You don't want the stormwater to become an issue where it's something that we're hearing about all the time.
If lots of people know my name and know what I do, then something's not going right.
Well, now all the people of Dallas are going to know who to call.
Directly.
Yeah. But I actually was on the website, so your contact information is already on there. So
yes.
They can find it easily.
It is, yeah.
Without this great podcast we have. So, related to the town of Dallas, Gaston County, I understand, one of the reason you're here is some of the programs, some of the education, some of those facets about, because there's obviously, we could talk about exactly what the town of Dallas and you're doing for stormwater, but we're more interested about how you're making Gaston better and the education piece, or just, the programs that you're involved with, because I do think it's fair to say that most of our listeners or residents have no idea about that side of it or that piece of it. So,
yeah, I'd say that's pretty fair to say. Honestly, a lot of our education program is aimed right now at elementary and middle school and high school kids. That is probably the biggest piece of education that I do. I go into Carr Elementary probably since I started in January. I probably average going in like once or twice a month. And I just either teach them about the water cycle. I teach them about what happens when it rains. Where does that water go? Sometimes we can do things with pollution. We have a cool share our water activity where everybody has to get water from the same source. It's like a bucket in the middle. And after a time of everybody running back and forth outside, you get grass and wood chips and a little bit of dirt in the water. And so, it's kind of a really good visualizer of if everybody's using the same water source and it gets dirty, that's a big problem. Stormwater runoff is the number one surface water pollutant in the United States. No matter where you go, stormwater is the biggest problem that we have with pollution. And it's just because, the way I explain it to them is every time it rains, you just think of the entire town taking a shower. And like everything that's on the roadway, all of the dirt, all the grime, any trash that might have accidentally fallen out, all of that is going to get pushed out into the storm drains, and it's going to empty into a creek or into a river. And most of the time, specifically the South Fork, we use the South Fork for our drinking water, so we're going to have to filter that back out once it runs into the South Fork. So that's probably the biggest piece of education is in elementary school especially. And then when we get into high school, we do some more cool stuff with like macroinvertebrates, which is just a fancy word for bugs that live in the creek. And they get to be a little more hands-on and, kind of play around and get their hands dirty and stuff. But yeah, our education program is part of our MS4 permit. MS4 stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. So much easier to just say MS4. It is mandated by the federal and state government that we have this permit in under the Clean Water Act that was passed in 1972. And there's 6 parts to our MS4 permit. One of them, and the biggest one, is public education. The second one, which is the next most important, is public involvement, so doing outreach events, cleanup events. And then we have 4 other ones that are more kind of based on kind of legal permitting and stuff, and kind of gives us our ability to enforce certain things when people are polluting. But yeah, public education and public involvement are definitely our biggest pieces and the things that we worry about mostly on a day-to-day.
Is it fair to say that we probably here in Gaston County, or frankly in America in general. And we take drinking water for granted, don't we? That the fact that, this morning I bring water this is not coffee, this is water. And I just walk up to my refrigerator and water comes out of it, right? I mean, I know how that gets there, where it comes from, but because I'm in construction, I've been here a long time. I have an engineering degree, so I've been exposed to some of that. But most people may not even have any idea where that comes from and how. Yeah, like the trash is probably a good storm. That stuff has to go somewhere, right?
It
and
sure
then
does.
Somebody has to. Then somebody has to deal with it.
Yeah. And water is,
or the system has to deal with it.
Yeah, water's a lot stronger than people think of. I know we see like videos of like cars being moved off roadways and like a foot of water. I mean, it's.
Unfortunately, we saw that to an extreme in back in September, right? With Helene came through the mountains.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, those videos are. And that was an extreme case. But to your point, just a small flood at the right volume of water at the right rate of flow is a problem.
And it doesn't even, it doesn't even have to rain, several inches for the stormwater system in particular to get overwhelmed. We just passed fall, like just the leaves being on the ground. If enough leaves pile up, leaves can get real heavy when they're wet. They're not going to want to move out of openings and storm drains and stuff. And, if you get half an inch of rain, but it only takes, 30 minutes to an hour for it to fall, I mean, it's going to flood. So it's kind of a.
Yeah, I happen to have a storm drain literally out on the corner on my yard, on the curb. So I get to see that every week. And, yeah, I am forever, this time of year especially. Well, not just past, really. I'm forever, getting cleaning leaves out of it and, making sure.
You're a good man because most people will not be.
Well, luckily it's right. I don't have to go anywhere, right? It's right there, and I get to, and I can see it. And also know if it's, I can look out my window in a good storm, and I know if it's not clear or not immediately. So it's interesting that, again, those are kind of things we take for granted too. Just the general, I think the general utilities we take for granted that we're able to enjoy here in the West, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, I know you've got a year behind you. Is there something that comes to mind? And I'm not sure this is on the questions that we share with you beforehand. So if I'm getting ready to stump you, that's okay. Sorry. That's how we roll here. But, whether it's a student or something that you've seen occur, one of your initiatives or programs, I mean, are you seeing an impact? How do you know that, or you've seen a family, a kid, a classroom that you're impacting something positive, something that comes to mind from, wow, this is why we do this education, or something that's triggered? Is that a outrageous question? Does that make any sense?
No. So it's funny you say that, because when I first started back in January, I kind of went out on a limb and I kind of emailed like almost every teacher in the schools that were in our town limits, and I only got like 2 responses, which is fine. That if it's 2 people I can educate to, that's fine. But one of them happened to be the principal of Carr Elementary, Dr. Duncan. So she kind of hooked me up to where I was able to go around and visit every student last semester from January to last May. I was able to visit and at least talk with every single student in the building.
Gotcha.
Or every classroom.
Right.
And so the 5th grade last year especially kept requesting that I come back and do stuff. And so that was kind of a sign like it's either making sense to them, or they think I'm hilarious and they just want to hear me talk, or, they enjoy what we're talking about or the activities we're doing. One of the classes, they didn't even learn my real name. They just called me, They call me Bill Nye, the science guy.
Okay.
Which is high praise for me because I grew up on Bill Nye. But yeah, they would, I would get recognized by them, and if I'm walking in the hallway to a different class, and the door's open, they all start screaming, and I have to go say hello. And, I go down to the Pita Wheel in Dallas, and there's, a group of them there, and I'm ordering, and I get tapped on the back, and I turn around, it's 3 kids, and they're like, "You came to our classroom. We remember you had the big science thing." I was like, "Oh, yeah." Yeah, and the Halloween event that we just had in October, every kid that came through almost I either recognized or they recognized me. So it was, things like that. Like, they might not recognize or remember me for, oh, this is the stormwater administrator of the town of Dallas, but they at least remember our interaction, and they remember I'm the water guy. So,
well, that's, listen, that's good, right? I mean, it's if they didn't have a positive experience, they wouldn't come up and
exactly. They'd be avoiding me and side-eyeing me, and
they'd be saying, "Hey, that's that guy. Let's walk the other way." I remember a kid. I mean, I've got 3 kids. So I remember when they were younger, how that was. I can't hardly remember when I was that age. It was too long ago. But are you Googling something? Okay, just checking. Just for the record, I thought Amy was over here Googling something while in the middle of our presentation here. So knowing your education, your background, the things you're doing in Dallas, for our listeners out there, you've already shared a lot. What comes to mind? I mean, why is stormwater so important for Gaston County? I mean, we this podcast is basically we're trying to share all the reasons why Gaston County is such a great place, and then sometimes most of the time it's people that are doing this nonprofit work or this, but gosh, the nonprofit work couldn't happen without clean water or without managing water or whatever, all these things that I like to think we do take for granted. It's kind of like having heating and air conditioning, what we do, right? Oftentimes that is taken for granted that we have it. So, what's the foundationally? I mean, why is Gaston County better? Because I know we're specifically talking about what you do in Dallas, but every municipality, the whole county is dealing with the same thing, and that might lead to a second question about collaboration too. But how would you answer that question? What?
Well, I know I've made several friends, or I guess work friends, that work in different municipalities. And there is a lot of good stuff going on, not just at the Gaston County Department of Natural Resources level, but City of Gastonia, Danon Lawson. He's an awesome dude. Okay. He's the program manager there. The City of Lowell. I don't remember her last name, but her first name's Jamie. She's a rock star. She just finished a doctorate, and she's got all these things going on, and she's awesome too. I know the people from Mount Holly. I know the people from Cramerton, from Belmont. And there's a lot of attention being paid to this within town governments, and so there's a lot of boots on the ground, I guess you could say, that are doing the same thing I'm doing. They're educating. They're making sure the public is aware of this issue.
How are the systems interconnected? I mean, I'm assuming, it's not just one isolated, stormwater system, right? I mean, there's got to be some connectivity there, isn't there?
A little bit. I'd say most of the systems that are on the surface, like kind of like the open ditch systems, or if you go to a Walmart or a Food Line or a Ingles, there's going to be probably a retention pond either behind the store or in front of the store, something like that.
Right.
Not necessarily any like underground pipe connecting and stuff.
Understood.
But if, let's say, Dallas is not managing our stormwater well, most of our stuff drains into Long Creek. Long Creek also runs through Gastonia. So if we're mismanaging stormwater and something on our end is like pollution is not getting taken out of the water, then Gastonia is going to feel that pollution downstream.
Gotcha, yeah.
Or
that's a better way to describe.
Yeah,
what I was asking you.
If we have let's say we have some overuse of fertilizer happening in town, that's going to be bad for water quality. Those effects are going to be felt downstream in McCaddenville, in Belmont, in Cramerton, where they rely on the South Fork specifically for a lot of things. I know Cramerton especially has a lot of parks centered like right around the South Fork. So if the South Fork is disgusting because of something happening upstream, you're not going to want to go take a walk on the side of the river or anything. So I'd say it's more of that connection. One thing that gets thrown around a lot in stormwater is that we all live downstream. So like somebody is upstream of us. So like If something is happening in the headwaters of the South Fork that, there's a lot of sediment or there's a lot of pollution or something, we would eventually feel those impacts as well.
Yeah, sometimes it might not be the locale where it's actually occurring. It might be downstream where the bigger impact could be. So ultimately, it's just where you're impacting each other, maybe more so than this connectivity system that I kind of had in my head. So what would you say? You're looking ahead for water systems and stormwater and pollution in general and the things that you're dealing with. I mean, is there anything coming down the line? Is it going to 5 to 10 years down the road? Are there things that are that industry, for lack of a better term, that you guys are working on? Big technology that might be out there. Just any kind of what does stormwater look like 5 to 10 years down the road?
Hopefully, I'll speak on a state level and then I'll speak Dallas level.
Okay.
On the state level, there are a couple of bills that are. One of them might have been passed already. There's a couple of bills that are trying to eliminate parking minimums, and people are like, well, that doesn't match stormwater, but it does, I promise, because, you go to Walmart, you have this massive parking lot.
Sure.
That water, when it falls on the asphalt, it has to go somewhere. So they're going to have to put in a really expensive retention pond, and they're going to have to pay to remediate and take care of that retention pond as well. So if you eliminate parking minimums, you can have less impervious surface, I think is the overall goal. There's one also that is banning some type of sealant that goes on asphalt. I think it's coal tar. Coal tar, maybe. It's really, really bad. Like the people who apply it don't even want to mess with it because it has a lot of negative health effects, and it also breaks off really easy, and you have little particles running into the water, and it's just really nasty stuff. So I think that bill might have passed already. But ultimately, on the state level, you also just want more awareness because, like you said, like this has kind of been an uphill battle getting people to care because people don't really care unless it's going wrong. I feel like
Correct,
that's a lot.
yeah.
A lot of
or
utilities,
they go without something.
Yeah, a lot of utilities are kind of the same way. You don't really think about how the power gets to your building until the power's off, or like you say, heating and air. You don't really think about it until it's not there when you need it. So
yeah, we're kind of like you. People don't want to call. We don't want people calling us too often.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So getting people to not even care, just acknowledge that stormwater is a thing and that it's a kind of important thing for water quality. On the Dallas level, in a couple years, hopefully, we just finished a big, or we're in the middle of finishing a big inventory project for all of our infrastructure. So we contracted a company to take videos of inside all of our stormwater pipes so we can see which ones are clogged, which ones are broken, because some of the infrastructure in Dallas is very well loved and has definitely served its purpose and needs a little bit of updating. So hopefully in 5 to 10 years we have at least most of it updated. The issue in a lot of small towns is that you still deal with all the problems in like a larger city, kind of like Gastonia or like Charlotte, but you don't necessarily have the revenue base to address all of those issues and fund all those issues. So it's going to take some time, but hopefully we'll get the high priority stuff done in the next 5 to 10 years. We have 2 annual cleanup events. We have the Dallas Spring Clean and then the Dallas Halloween Sweep and Clean. So hopefully I get those 2 established a little bit more.
Okay.
I think we had like 40, 45 people at both of them this year, which is not bad for the first and second time we've ever hosted something like that. But hopefully we can kind of get that in its roots and get that to be a tradition.
Where can, say, you said one was a spring clean.
Yes.
Obviously, Halloween is obvious when that is. When is the spring clean typically done, or is there a date already for 2025? Or?
So I tried to, last year I had it whatever the closest Saturday to Earth Day was.
Okay.
Which I think Earth Day might have been on a Saturday. This year, that weekend is Easter, so we're going to do it before.
That's probably a good idea. Yeah.
I don't have an exact date yet
Okay.
off the top of my head.
But I'm sure they can go to the Town of Dallas website.
It'll be on our website. It'll be on our Facebook page. Is a great place to look.
Okay, perfect.
Also, any town event, if it's like a concert event in the summer, if it's a parade, anything like that, we are probably there handing out educational material and probably doing demonstrations as well. And that's kind of what we just need to continue in the next 5 to 10 years. I want to be able to attend all of the town events, make sure that we're continuing to make an impact and keep up the work that we've kind of started. I think it's really easy to kind of come in and have a lot of positive momentum at first because everything's new and we've never done this before and this is a first and all that. But I want to be able to keep that momentum going because it is an important topic and it's worth it to keep that going.
Can I assume that you're involved or when residential, commercial, industrial development is going on?
A little bit.
Or is that more up to the developer?
So we definitely interact with developers, and we craft our ordinances and our building codes to be a little stormwater friendly. We just updated a couple months ago to require basically it was to update like pipe dimensions, making sure that underground pipes aren't too small and that we're not creating a bottleneck for stormwater and stuff. The county handles most of the pre-construction stuff.
Yep.
And they do that for all the municipalities, I think, other than maybe Gastonia. But all of the smaller municipalities, I think that's handled at a county level. But we work with them and the developer.
So if you went back, let's say, stormwater piping specifically, 50 years ago, what kind of material was used and what kind of material is used today?
50 years ago, you'd probably be hard-pressed to find any pipes underground unless you were in like a major population hub. Charlotte, probably. And they probably just used like corrugated aluminum, which is not the greatest to use for water. We have a couple pipes like that in Dallas where they're going to have to get replaced soon. The tendency for corrugated aluminum is the bottom of it will rust out eventually because, the water's moving on the bottom. It's water and metal.
Yep.
Not always the greatest sign after, 30, 40 years of use. A lot of things we use now are reinforced concrete. And the typical dimensions we use are at least 18 inches in diameter for Dallas. That is big enough for a normal-sized basketball to fit through it. Yeah,
and it's shocking how much water can flow through something like that.
Yeah.
That's a lot of volume. What can Joe homeowner, the typical resident, what can they do month to month, week to week, just in their daily lives to help, with stormwater pollution in general in the water? I mean, what are some of the things they can typically do?
Well, the number one thing that I always tell people is clean up trash after yourself. Make sure that your trash cans are at least a little tucked away. If we're going to have a storm and there's going to be some major wind, make sure your trash cans aren't just sitting out somewhere because a lot of times when we see like trash pollution, people are not mostly bad people. They're not doing that on purpose. A lot of it's on accident. So, making sure your trash cans are kind of tucked away and protected. In the fall, making sure that your leaves are not in a drainage ditch, or if you have a driveway culvert, making sure they're not blocking those. Picking up after pets. If you have a dog outside that, uses a bathroom outside, making sure you pick up after them. And I get the question all the time is like, well, wild animals, they get to do whatever they want in the woods and we don't have to clean up after them. So that is true. But if you have a dog and it is going to the bathroom in the same spot every single day, and that's a lot of waste to be concentrated in the same area. And also a lot of nasty bacteria and that stuff too.
And yards and development and neighborhoods are typically designed to flow down to the stormwater, right? I mean,
they are
a little different. Yeah,
the normal suburban lawn is not meant to absorb a lot of water.
Right. All right, so that's good. So I think that's what listen, people. I think in general, all people they want to know how they can help. And sometimes it's very simple things. It's not typically I've learned that it's not typically some dramatic thing that we have to be doing.
No, it's not. It's really simple. It's really easy. It doesn't cost you any money to see a piece of trash in your yard and pick it up. Yeah. The other thing people can do is if you see something going on with a creek, or if there's a storm drain blocked, or you have water flowing in the street and you have no idea where it's coming from, call whoever is in charge of that area, whether it's the county, whether it's a town, or the city of Gastonia. Let somebody know, because a lot of times, I have people come up to me and say, hey, like there's flooding happening over here. Why hasn't anybody come and fixed it? Well,
nobody knows about it.
Yeah, we don't know about it. Like, like the Stormwater Department in Dallas is just me. So like, I drive around every morning before I get to work just to check on things. But I'm one person, like inevitably I'm going to miss something. So, and every municipality is required to have a stormwater contact, or at least a hotline.
Okay.
Through our MS4 program. So it should be listed on all the municipalities' websites.
Yeah, MS4, that sounds like some kind of secret agency or something like.
I wish it was that cool.
Is it MI4? That's the British secret agency. Anyway, so that sounds pretty cool. Just if you're, that's maybe you get a hat that says you're an MS4 agent. So, Garrison, this was really good. So, are there any? I mean, we'll swing back and make sure before we finish that listeners know how to get in touch with you and where to go for obviously all the municipalities. You can find all this information, I'm sure, every municipality's website. Because it was easy. It was easy to find you on the Town of Dallas website. Is there anything I haven't asked that I should have asked, or anything that you want to make sure we cover before we finish up this episode? I
don't think so. The only thing I do want to shout out my collectives that I'm a part of,
okay,
or the Town of Dallas is a part of.
Sure.
The Regional Stormwater Partnership of the Carolinas. We have members from Kings Mountain and Shelby all the way up to Spencer and Monroe and Charlotte and Mecklenburg County.
Okay.
So we cover kind of this entire area. We are a collective of all stormwater administrators, MS4 permit managers, stormwater utility workers. We basically come together. We meet once a quarter, and we talk about basically how can we continue stormwater education. Do we have any big projects coming up that we need help on? We host a lot of events. We're hosting an elected officials event in, I think, February or March.
Okay.
At some point. We host stormwater tech talks all the time, where we invite, landscapers, developers, project engineers. They come and we tell them about stormwater, because a lot of times developers also stormwater is a requirement from the state that you have to fulfill. They don't really always understand the background behind it. So we have felt that if we all combine together, it is a lot more powerful than...
And understanding the why behind what they're doing, right?
But if if you're a developer and I come to you as on behalf of the Town of Dallas, I'm going to tell you about stormwater. That's a little less convincing, rather than I'm coming to you with a partnership of 50 municipalities, including Gaston County, Mecklenburg County, City of Charlotte, Gastonia. That's a little more powerful.
Sure.
Saying that I basically have the Stormwater Avengers coming with me at my back. So.
Or the secret agents.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, was there anything else you want to share there before?
The other one, similar collective called the South Fork Collective. It is in partnership with the Catawba Riverkeeper.
Okay.
This is specifically municipalities that are on the South Fork or have an interest in the South Fork River. And we really talk about conservation and, again, education events and stuff. We help out with Riverfest. We talk a lot about conservation projects that the Catawba Riverkeeper are doing. So I would definitely urge y'all to check both of those out.
I don't remember what episode it was, but we've had John Serbia on Catawba Riverkeepers back. God, that was early on, probably 3 years ago or so, 3 or 4 years. It's almost 4 years ago now.
He's a good dude.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I think he's speaking at my Rotary Club tomorrow as well. So, Garrison, this has been great. However, we shift gears briefly at every episode, and we make our guests endure these Gaston County related questions. So the fact that you are not from Gaston County and you don't live in Gaston County, we don't care.
I was studying, and I am ready for this.
Okay. So a year working in Gaston County is long enough to have to answer these questions. And we will chastise you if you don't answer these questions.
Okay.
Okay. So, or I'll have Hannah send you, I don't know, text you with some chastisement. Okay. So, is that a word, chastisement? I'm not sure, but it is on today's episode. So, we're going to call this I work in Dallas, but I'm not from here speed round of questions. So, Garrison, you ready?
I'm ready.
Have you ever been to Tony's Ice Cream?
I have been.
Oh.
Twice.
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 So here you go. What's your favorite Tony's Ice Cream flavor?
I have no idea what the name of it is. It has chocolate and peanut butter in it. It is delicious.
Chocolate and peanut butter in it, but he doesn't know the name.
It's very similar to like a Moose Tracks, but it's chocolate as the base instead of vanilla.
Huh. I have to look that one up. All right. That is an acceptable answer. Knowing what it was would be better, but I realize you went to UNCC, so we'll give you a break.
It is also 26 degrees outside, so it has been a second since I have been to Tony's Ice Cream.
It's not exactly ice cream. Yeah, we're recording this on Wednesday the 8th, and it's 20 degrees this morning, or 19 actually.
Yep.
Now this might be one, I don't know, Sundrop or Cheerwine?
Cheerwine all the way.
Okay.
Love
Favorite local restaurant?
Local restaurant, got to be the Pita Wheel in Dallas.
Okay. I've been to all three of them.
I've been to the Gastonia location. I'm not saying it was bad. I love the Dallas location.
Okay. Yeah, I've been to all three, and they're all three good, so that's an acceptable answer. How about, besides chasing stormwater, what's your favorite activity or to do here, or favorite park here in Gaston County?
I love Crowder's Mountain State Park. Love going to Crowder's Mountain. I also really like the park in Cramerton that's on the river. Goat Island. Yes.
Yeah, Goat Island Park is great.
Goat Island has a cool disc golf course.
Yeah.
I love disc golf. I've played it only once, but it was very cool.
Yeah, we actually, if you go on YouTube and you search for Gaston's Great Goat Island Park, there's an old video that we shot with Jesse Cole.
I think I saw that
years ago about Goat Island Park. We did. That's how Gaston's Great actually started, was us doing videos around some of the great things around Gaston County. That's probably been 10 years ago now, before your time here, wasn't it? All right, so very important question, and I have modified it slightly just for your sake. So, UNC Duke, NC State, or UNCC?
I'm going to go Charlotte all the way. Go Niners. We got a new head football coach.
I saw that.
We're going to be bowl eligible. We might win the conference. I'm not asking for anything crazy. I'm asking for 6-7 wins. I will be so happy.
That's a bold.
And look, here's the thing, too.
That's a bold statement.
We have the chance to do something really important this next season because we open against App State. Okay, we've never beat App State. There are allegations that we are App State's little brother. That is not true. All right, we have the chance to beat App State first game of the season. Then we have a chance to beat the mothership. UNC is coming to Jerry Richardson Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina.
I can assure you, I do not consider them the mothership.
Well. I also agree.
But I understand. I understand why people say that.
I'm an ABC guy. Anybody but Carolina.
So if you don't beat Appalachian, I'm sure Hannah's going to hear this.
I know.
And so
most of my friends went to App.
Just be prepared. Just be prepared for the repercussions of that. So Garrison, what is something very few people know about you?
Oh, dang, I don't know.
Besides you're an MS4 agent.
Yes, I know you blew my cover out. I don't know. I guess people know it because I said it earlier, but I guess people wouldn't assume that I'm a cat person, which I'm not really. I'm more of a dog person. I grew up with dogs and stuff. My fiance, when she moved here from Tampa, just so happened to have.
So she's a cat person, which makes you a cat person.
She's a dog person too. They just kind of the two cats just kind of showed up one day. And
I just don't trust cats. So
I didn't either. One of them I think is like half of a dog. He has a lime green little mouse that he loves chasing around the house, and it looks like a tennis ball. And he can speak on command. I can get him to sit.
That's weird.
I think he's.
I definitely wouldn't trust that cat.
Yeah, I don't know. He's gonna. I don't know. I don't know.
How about a book or blog or article or podcast or something that you might recommend to our listeners?
So I just finished a book. It's a little interesting. It's called The Geography of Disaster, and it is basically a book. It's like a nonfiction kind of investigative type book. But it basically kind of goes through the history and the process of people building really big, really expensive houses in hurricane-prone areas. And it talks about the history of like how the federal government does like hurricane flood insurance and how those subsidies work and how it's kind of a little bit cheaper for people to just, not everybody, but cheaper for like massive hotels to just rebuild, like knock it down and rebuild instead of actually selling the land and putting a hotel where it wouldn't flood all the time. So
interesting.
It's a very interesting book.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I'm always looking for something to read because I'm always reading something. All right. So I appreciate you indulging us on those Gaston County related questions. So a few more questions and we'll finish up this episode. So, remember this is a podcast about Gaston County, why it's such a great place. And again, you've worked here long enough to, I think, answer this question as well. So besides the town of Dallas and the town of Dallas Stormwater Department, which is you, the work you're doing, why would you say Gaston County, in your experience, is such a great place?
I think it's a great place because you can be in downtown Gastonia and you feel like you're walking around. It's a small city. Like, it's really nice. Like, you can walk around and, you can park somewhere, walk a couple blocks. You got a restaurant, you got shopping. You got a lot of things within a couple blocks. I can drive 5 minutes north, and I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like, right. I feel like, and then you just happen upon Dallas, or you happen upon Lowell, or something like that, and you're in, like, this very charming small town. So I think you can get anything you're looking for, you can get it in Gaston County. And I really like that. And the mentality of the people is very like small town friendly as well, no matter where you're at. So
I just heard, did I just decipher that he's moving here soon to Gaston County?
We're looking at houses right now.
So I might have to modify this question too. Normally I ask, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self, knowing what you know now? I'm just assuming that's just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So how about maybe knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your high school self?
Oh, Lord. There's too much. I'd say the number one thing would be to have a little more patience, not necessarily with other people, but have more patience with myself, and have more patience, I think, overall with the situation that I was in. I started my college career at University of South Carolina, my freshman year, and then I was a civil engineering major. Quickly realized that I didn't really like it as much as I thought I would. So I transferred and switched my major. And I was very frustrated with myself, kind of like freshman, sophomore year of college, I guess. So I would tell myself specifically then to be very patient because it'll work out. Even if it does not look like it at the time, like everything's going to be okay.
It's easy to look back on that and see that now. But at the time, I'm sure, Yeah,
if I would have told myself like this is where I'm at, I'm doing the Gaston's Great podcast. Like,
can you imagine? You never would have believed it, would you?
I wouldn't have believed it at all. But if I would have told myself that I have a full-time job that I really like in a field that I'm actually using my degree, and you have a nice apartment, you have a fiance, you're about to get married, you have 2 cats, like. I wouldn't have believed the cat thing, but like it'd be. Yeah,
that actually makes me nervous. But
it would be. It would have shocked me, definitely.
All right. Well, listen, I appreciate that because looking back when I was that age, I would definitely say I didn't have patience for a lot of my own decisions and the things I was doing as well. And looking back, that perspective would have helped at the time. So, Garrison, this is really good. So again, making sure we understand the point today is. To learn more about stormwater, what the town of Dallas is doing, education opportunities out there. What can you share with our listeners about where to go to find more information out, any education sources? What if there's, I know you said mostly schools. Do y'all ever do any education for other organizations that might be in Dallas, or is it strictly the school system typically?
We do. I have a visit to a Boy Scout troop at the end of February.
All right.
At some point. And I met the troop leader. I was at a town event. I had my demonstration set up. It was like a concert. There were not a lot of kids there, so my demonstration was not really hitting too hard. But yeah, this kid and his dad came up, and I started talking to him about it, and he was like, hey, like, I have a Boy Scout troop, and would you like to come talk to us at some point? So, yeah, we do any type of like civic group, any type of community group. We would. Okay. I'd love to come talk to y'all about stormwater, because I obviously I can do this all day. Like this is interesting to me if it's not interesting to anybody else. So,
Well, it's an important topic, if nothing else, and it's probably misunderstood or not. A lot of people are just ignorant of it, right? It's just not something that we think about as much as we probably should. So, any last words before we close this episode? Actually, let me back up. So, the Town of Dallas website is where you can find Garrison's direct contact. Again, it's easy. There's departments listed there or something. I can't remember exactly the wording, but it's super easy to find. I found it in literally in 60 seconds.
We have our own tab now.
Oh, yeah.
We have our own tab.
Like
hopefully there's going to be some more resources put up there soon. I have them all made. I just have to get them on the website. But if you're looking for more information, the EPA has a lot of good information. The North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality has a lot of good information. Okay. And if you go to the Regional Stormwater Partnership of the Carolinas, RSPC, they also have a lot of resources on their page, including like lesson plans and stuff. If there's a teacher listening that doesn't want somebody else in their classroom, but they'd like to do it themselves, they have lesson plans on there. Okay.
So, and you mentioned a Facebook page earlier. I'm assuming you're talking about the Town of Dallas has a Facebook page. Is that what you were referring to?
I think we have an Instagram page now too.
Oh, wow.
So those are where a lot of the town announcements go out. Whenever there's an event, that's probably where it's going to be posted. Okay. So now I'll let you, any other last words or anything you'd like to share before we close this episode out? I appreciate y'all having me. This has been cool. I love talking about stormwater to people. So, any chance I get to is a good day for me. This is great. It was educational for me, so I assume that's going to be educational for some of our listeners out there. So again, we appreciate your time and the work that you're doing. So as usual, I'm going to finish up with my own book recommendation and kind of a quote or thought for the week, and we'll let Garrison get back to his solving the stormwater problems of our county. So my book this week is. I've shared this author multiple times before, but I've just recently, within the past month or so, finished another one of his books. John Maxwell, who's considered kind of the guru of leadership. I just read The 5 Levels of Leadership, just another really good read if you're interested in learning more about leadership. And my thought for the week is kind of ties into being the new year. And Jim Rohn is somebody that I have shared some of his other thoughts before, but Jim Rohn said, "Your life does not get better by chance, it gets better by change." So I would say, unfortunately, that's probably true. So many of us, including myself, want to get better in areas or parts of my life, and you got to do something different. And sometimes that can be hard, but Jim Rohn is somebody I would recommend you looking into if you're into personal development or looking for ways to get better. So, to our listeners out there, thanks so much for taking time for listening to today's episode. Please continue to spread the word if you can about the podcast. And please don't hesitate to contact us here at an email address, which is podcast@gastonsgreat.com. We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at the website, gastonsgreat.com, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Please follow us on all our social media platforms. And apparently, according to Amy and Naomi, giving us a good 5-star rating helps the podcast get noticed. Thanks again to Garrison for being our guest today. Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by Naomi Hunt and Amy Anderson from GSM Services. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.